Welcome to Allies or Enemies. I'm Jess.
And I am Sean, and it is another very hot day in London, so we are sweaty, but we're also sweaty because we're very excited to give you our numbers 90 to 81. We are continuing to count them down. I'm also excited to be wearing Jess's least favorite shirt that I own today, but it is both very cool temperature-wise and very cool coolness-wise, so I had to wear it.
If you missed our last video, we are celebrating our second anniversary of our channel. So we are doing our top 100 of all time, and this is the second video for that. So welcome back, or welcome to this set. Feel free to start here too. And we alternate who kicks things off, and I believe you did last time.
I did last time, so it is your turn to kick it off this time with your number 90.
My number 90 is Too Many Bones, and this is one we've only played a few times so far, so I do feel like it can really go in either direction, and it might shoot way up. It's a cooperative dungeon crawler where you have to kind of upgrade the dice you're using based on the skills that you're choosing, and each of the characters play very differently in terms of their specialties and the skills that they have. So I love dungeon crawlers and cooperative games, and so far we haven't been in any danger of winning. But I think maybe once we kind of figure it out a bit more, I think this one is really going to climb up a lot.
Yeah, it is. It's the heaviest box we own by a lot. This is crazy heavy because of the components are all like absolute top of the line possible. And it didn't quite make my list, but it's the same thing. We just haven't played it that much yet. But yeah, it is really cool. And I like, as you said, you are, upgrading the dice that you're using based on the skills that you're choosing, which is super amusing. And as you're abusing all of the bad guys so that you're not losing, I really like this game. It's a lot of fun.
And that's my number 90.
My number 90 is Railroad Inc. Railroad Inc. is a roll and write game, and it's probably the roll and write game I have played the absolute most because I play this a lot on Board Game Arena. If you're watching this and you play it on there, you've probably played me. But this is it's just super fun drawing out your tracks and drawing out your roads, and we've got the challenge one as well, and I do like adding in the trees, and it's fun having the different special dice in the mix as well.
Yeah, it really is enjoyable to really successfully build your network. I haven't had as much practice as you, so I tend to lose this one, but it is still great at the end to be like, look at my network. We usually show each other and kind of like did such a good job.
Yeah, she's really good at the lakes. She always beats me at the lakes, so that is her real claim to fame, I think. But that is number 90.
My number 89 is Shakespeare, and this is one that we've been after for a couple of years, but it has been out of print and so difficult to find. I feel like I'm always like the second person that comments on a sales post, and finally managed to get ourselves a copy, and it has kind of lived up to what I had hoped for it. It's a really fun game of collecting actors and prop makers, and then trying to like put on these productions for it. And the pace is great too, because there's only 6 rounds, so it does flow pretty quick as well.
Yeah, and it works great with 2 as well. And I'm so excited about this because I'm just an enormous Shakespeare fan. We go to every show at the Globe every season and are pretty big Shakespeare nuts. So very excited to have this in the collection.
And if anyone sees the backstage expansion for sale, please let us know, because we hear that makes it even better.
Yeah, we are doing a lot of searching for that right now.
That's my number 89.
My number 89 is Fireball Island. And if you had asked me when I was 13 years old, I would have said this is the greatest game of all time and it will never get better than this. And I was so excited when they re-released it because they did do such a good job of making it actually as I remembered the game was. Because I think if I went back and played that original game, I'd be like, it's fine. But this is awesome, and we actually just played it the other week too with friends, and it's just so much fun just shooting fireballs at each other and running around the island trying to grab things. It's an unbelievably simple game. It's really, you just got cards, you're playing them, you're moving around, but it's dropping marbles into Volkar's head and just seeing them cause destruction around the island. You can't beat it.
It is really satisfying to knock an opponent over and then be able to steal something of theirs.
Yeah, super fun game still. That is Fireball Island.
My number 88 is Bandido. It's a great small box game, just a deck of cards, and I love it. You are playing cooperatively, and you start with this Bandido that's trapped and trying to escape. And so every time you have to play down a tunnel card. And some tunnel cards expand the network, and sometimes it closes it off. And your goal is to close off all the tunnels by the end, which is surprisingly challenging, and it's super fun.
Yeah, and we got Bandido as well, and I felt like it just added a little. It was a bit like King Domino, Queen Domino, where I actually just super prefer, like, all you needed was the simplicity of it. And I think Bandido is kind of the same too. It's got such a lovely simplicity.
And I always have to play until I win. And so sometimes that's a lot of games in a row.
A lot of games.
That's my number 88.
My number 88 is Adventures of Robin Hood. And this is actually a pretty new one to us. I think we're just into like the fourth story through the adventure. And I held off on this one because I was like, I don't think I'm going to love it. I don't usually love games that have a lot of reading in the game. I like reading, but just not always whilst I'm playing games. But this one, totally, I love it anyway. Like, the story's nice and short, and it's Robin Hood, and I love Robin Hood. My family's all from Nottingham, so I grew up with Robin Hood stuff everywhere, and I've always loved it, and the game does a really good job of bringing you into that world.
It's really fun as well because the game board is basically like an advent calendar, so it does a really interesting job of being able to have specific tiles that are different for each time you play, and then different clues that you're looking for because that influences what part of the story you're reading. So it really does feel like you are exploring Nottingham and Shorewood Forest to try and solve whatever mystery or problem that you're currently trying to work out.
Yeah, I'm interested to see after we've played through it once if there's anything more to do, but even if it's just the one time through, I think it's going to be well worth it, and it's really fun so far. So that is Adventures of Robin Hood.
My number 87 is Seven Wonders Architects, and this is one so far that we have held off purchasing. Probably will get it at some point, but I really like the simplicity of it, and it's so great that each of the different wonders come in their own box, so the production of it makes it so easy to set up. And then on your turn, you have to take a card, either one from either side of you or one from the center that you can't see. And you can score points in different ways, from building your wonder, just getting points cards, or military or science, but in such a simplified version compared to kind of some of the other ones that I think works really well.
Yeah, it abstracts it really well, and we play this a lot on Board Game Arena, and I think it does play better with more as well. So our friends have a copy, and we play it with them a lot too. And I love that they come in their own boxes, but that is a bit of the tricky, is that the box is just bigger than I thought it would be. So we've just held off for space reasons, but we'll probably buy it.
And we always make the cat noise whenever we steal the cat, and the bugle noise whenever we get a military bugle. And so that just kind of adds to the fun of it. And that's my number 87.
My number 87 is Teotihuacan, I think. I don't think I'm saying that correctly, so I apologize if I'm not. But I don't apologize for liking this game, because it is a great game. It's just a really smart dice placement game where your dice are slowly moving up every turn. Moving up every turn until they finally die and go into the mausoleum or whatever, and then you get new dice that start moving around the track as well. This is one that we don't play that often, but whenever we play it, I'm always like, oh yeah, why don't we play this one more? I feel like it kind of just flies under the radar for us, but it's just a really smart game, and the expansions have added a bunch to it as well.
It is really clever, and I probably underestimate it, because every time we play, like you said, it is so enjoyable, and such tough decisions, because when you move your dice, you've got to pay cocoa based on the number of workers that are there. So every time it's your turn, you kind of have to reevaluate the board and change up your plans, because all of a sudden you don't have the cocoa to go to the space you wanted. So I love that dynamic of having to switch your strategies. And
there's super different paths to victory as well. Just really thinky, but in a really good way. And so that is Teotihuacan.
My number 86 is Parks, and Parks is gorgeous. The artwork in it is based off this National Parks artwork that looks amazing. And in it, you have these two hikers, and you have to go just along the one way, along the track, to do different actions along the tile. I think it's called a ratchet system.
Yeah, famously named for Ratchet and Clank, who were the first ones ever to only move forwards.
No, that's not true. But that pacing of it makes it really interesting, of trying to like maybe race to the good tiles, but then you have to give up being able to visit them again later. And so I love the look of it. I love how it plays. I love that you have to use a campfire to visit a spot with another player.
Yeah, it is. It's a really cool game, and it just the pieces are so nice. I always talk about just like the softness of the wood. I really like the softness of the wood.
And the production value is great. And so that is my number 86.
My number 86 is Ganymede. And Ganymede is it's a game that we just picked up this year, actually at AirCon, and it was totally like an impulse buy. It was just one that we played at the booth and we both really liked, and it's just plays super, super fast, has a theme that we really like where you're moving out from Earth and you're populating Ganymede, the largest moon of Jupiter and the largest moon in our solar system. And I am like weirdly obsessed with the moons of Jupiter, so this immediately caught my eye because of that. But just a super, super simple engine building game that plays really fast and really easy to play kind of a few games of at a time. And I sometimes just really enjoy a nice, like, quick, almost like a comfort game. And I feel like Ganymede really fills that spot.
It really does, because it didn't blow me away the first time we played it, but every time we played it, I'm just so impressed at that one simple decision on your turn, but how you can build those engines and even take kind of slightly different routes for how you get your points as well. My number 85 is The Great Wall, and I think I like it so much because it wasn't what I expected. When I saw people playing it, it had a lot of minis and a lot of different factions, and so I really thought it was going to be combative, like a head-to-head battle type of game. And it's not. It's a really clever worker placement game where you actually kind of have to somewhat work together, because to be able to do certain actions, you have to have a certain number of different players, workers on those spaces to be able to do it. And then you both are trying to defeat the hordes that are coming in, and the competition comes in for who can have the most honor by killing the hordes and building the walls to it, which I think is so kind of interesting, that it's the separate enemy that you are competitively trying to defeat.
Yeah, this one is it. Also, I totally agree. It really like subverted my expectations, but in a really good way. And it is just a really interesting kind of almost semi-co-op, but not really, because there's a lot of backstabbing in it.
And the production looks incredible. I love actually having that 3D wall and the minis and the artwork and everything look incredible. And so that was The Great Wall.
My number 85 is Race for the Galaxy, and this is one of the games that I got very early in the hobby. This is one of kind of my like first 5 like real kind of European-ish board games, and at the time, I, like most people, thought, holy cow, this is impossible. The icons are so hard, and I look at it now compared to games, and I'm like, what was our problem? This is not that hard to understand. And it is just such a terrific system. We've seen so many games just recently kind of steal a little bit the card play. And I think the new Terraforming Mars did a really good job of it as well. And used it and reuse old systems. That's fine. It's a really great idea, and I'm glad it's still being used.
And I do really like being able to do that simultaneous action, because you pick which card actions you're going to play, but then once they get revealed, everybody gets to do that. And it makes it, again, the flow of the game just flows really quickly because of that. But also, I try and guess what you're going to play, because I'll be like, oh, I really hope that you're going to play this type of card so that I can now do this action, which is a kind of fun to it too.
Yeah, and so it just keeps on holding up, and that is Race for the Galaxy.
My number 84 is Scythe, and I love the action selection system of Scythe and trying to kind of balance those resources. So on your turn, you each have a different faction, which has slightly small little different player powers, but enough that it does make a difference. And then you also have another board as well that pairs a top action with a bottom action. So the goal is really to be as efficient as possible to try and kind of build up so you're able to do both of them. And I do really enjoy that. And I think this would have been way higher right after we finished the Rise of Fenris campaign, because it is a phenomenal expansion. But because that was like a year ago since we played it, I think maybe it's fallen a little bit since then. I still love it as a game, though.
Yeah, the Rise of Fenris is maybe my favorite expansion for any game. It's just a terrific that it adds a campaign to a game in the way that it did. And even just playing through it, we played through it with 2, and then we also played through it with 4, actually online over Zoom with some friends in the States during the pandemic. And it was terrific both ways. And yeah, that top-bottom action, just such a great mechanic.
Yeah, and so it is really, really interesting and how you kind of move around the board, and it looks amazing too, and we've got kind of all the expansions for it, so really, really like it, and that is Scythe.
My number 84 is Meadow, and I'm very excited for the expansion, which has got an adorable otter on the front. I don't know anything more about it. I don't need to know anything more about it, but I really like Meadow. It's just super smart tableau builder, and it's got this really cool way of getting your cards where you're putting out these little arrows, and then that says how far in what row it is, but it also kind of blocks off people from getting those cards later. Just really clever, but really simple. And I always enjoy that mix. A game that you can explain in like 5 minutes, but then there is kind of like a bunch of hidden depth to it.
And I really like the tableau building element of it too, because it has a bit of a kind of a chaining factor. Being able to play a card means you have to already have certain needs of that card, which actually has a little bit of science to it. So like if you're playing a bird, it might need a berry to it. So the artwork on it is gorgeous because it's all like nature and animal themed. My number 83 is Suburbia, and in Suburbia you are building out your own suburban town. And I really just love the combinations for it. It's a little bit thinky in terms of what tile you're going to select, because each of your tiles that you place, you get kind of a bonus or something that happens with that tile. But then usually there are interactions with adjacent tiles, and then tiles in your city, and then possibly tiles in other cities that other players are using as well. So trying to find those right combinations is a really fun puzzle. But one of the aspects that I really like a lot about this one too is the better you're doing, the more kind of punishment you get, because the higher up you go, the more likely you are to like reduce your reputation and your income, which is a nice little kind of almost catch-up mechanic.
Yeah, as you move up, every time you hit these kind of certain milestones, you lose stuff, which makes it really hard to kind of get, like, you can't go into like overdrive with it. And this is one of the only games that we have where we regularly play like a house rule. Not like a house rule, I guess, but like an alternate rule that we saw in BGG, and that's just you got 1 row of base game tiles and 1 row of expansion tiles. And having that extra selection, I think it adds a lot to it. I really like, we never play it without that now. It's terrific that way.
Yeah, because sometimes I just want the fun tiles, so I love being able to choose from both of those options. More choice, in my opinion, makes it a much better game.
Yeah, get those vampire dens. I love the silly nighttime ones.
And that is Suburbia.
My number 83 is Trails of Tucana, and this has got to be right up there as our most played game this year. We play oodles of this one. You can just play it so fast. We've actually laminated some of the sheets so that we can play it even more without worrying about running out of sheets too. But just a super simple game where you flip over 2 cards, and then you've got to draw a line on your map from that terrain to another terrain. And it's one we played enough too that there's all sorts of like weird little things that we say depending on which cards come out, and just like songs that are sung. And it's one of those games that we've kind of just added a bunch of our own stuff to as we've played it more, which makes it more fun every time we play it.
It is a little bit like a I feel like a bingo caller. I'm always the one that calls out the terrain types, and so I get a little like, I get the joy if it's what somebody wanted, or the abuse if it's like not what they were looking for. And it just makes it really fun. I love a game that's easy to explain, really quick to play, and we've had some like huge score differences as well, as we've done like really well or really poorly with it too.
But that is Trails of Tucana.
My number 82 is Concordia. And in Concordia, you all start at a central place, but then you have boats and you have people that you're going out and collecting resources and putting buildings down. And along the way, you're also getting cards. And the cards are the actions that you can do. But the interesting aspect to it is what card you want might be based on the action that it provides, because the more actions that you want, the less you have to spend a turn collecting cards, but it's also the scoring conditions. So sometimes you can really do some great combos of focusing on one aspect and getting all of those scoring condition cards, and it's all scored at the end. So you kind of have no idea how you're going to do.
Yeah, I love games that score at the end, but this one only scores at the end. So everything is at the end. So you're just kind of playing and having fun, and that's kind of great because you never feel like, oh, I'm falling behind. You're just like, maybe I'm in it with a shot. I don't know. And then at the end, even if you lose by a lot, you've already kind of finished the game. So you never had that feeling, which I think is really nice.
Yeah, and that gameplay element of just play a card, do that action, run out of cards, get your play the card that lets you take it all back. Again, it's just the kind of quick gameplay and nice flow to it that I like, and that is Concordia.
My number 82 is Villagers, and so far Villagers is my favorite in this Sinister Fish trilogy. Just super simple tableau building, card drafting game, and it moves so fast. I feel like it's like every time we're done, I feel like, is that it? There should be another round or even another 2 rounds to this game. Which says that's always a positive. That's a very good thing if I want to play more of something.
And it is one that we have gotten better at from when we first played it, as we've discovered the kind of combinations you need and which characters to look out for and get into your village. And I like the artwork with like the plain white cards, but the really colorful art on it.
Yeah, it's super simplistic artwork, but it's really nice in that simplicity, and it adds a lot to the game, and it just makes it really quick to like look at. Oh yeah, I know what all of those do. I know how everything chains, and it looks really great at the end, your village as well. So that is Villagers.
My number 81 is Bitoku, and Bitoku looks amazing. When you first get it, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but it's an interesting dice placement game, and you also have cards that dictate some of your actions as well. And you're always trying to find the best combinations. And so there are lots of different things that you can do in terms of like walking along a path or building buildings or just tons and tons. So I feel like every time we play it, we do kind of focus on different elements, and the fact that there isn't just always doing this one route is going to be the best way makes it interesting to explore the possibilities.
I think every time we play it too, we learn something that we did wrong previously. So we're getting closer and closer to the actual game, and I think it gets better every single time we play it. But even when we played it wrong in our first few plays, it was still a lot of fun. And yeah, it's very busy, but it's very beautiful.
And there are some really interesting decisions because sometimes you can kind of block your opponent out a little bit. So the timing of when you do your actions factors into your decision making too, which is an interesting element. And so that is Bitoku.
My number 81 is Colt Express, and we do generally stick to 2-player games, and this is almost specifically not a 2-player game, but this is just a ton of just crazy fun. So if ever you're playing with a bunch of people, really easy to explain, and really all it is you're putting down a bunch of cards, you're programming out what you're going to do. And you can even see, for the most part, every now and then you go in a tunnel, you can't see, but for the most part, what everyone else is doing. But it's not going to help you because it never goes to plan. You get punched into another card, and all of a sudden you're shooting your friend, and everything gets crazy. And we actually have a lot of fun playing our own version of this, like our house rule version, where we're 3 cowboys each. And we just play them all separately, but together, and trying to remember what 3 cowboys is doing is full on impossible.
I really like playing this 2 players because of that, because what happens is we kind of play them as a team in theory, but more often than not you end up like punching yourself because you end up punching one of your own characters, and so throwing that in as well makes it like super frustrating but part of the fun.
Yeah, it's just a complete kerfuffle when we play 3-on-3 ourselves with this game. Really fun, and really fun if you've got a lot of players as well. And the 3D train is terrific. It's just such a huge selling point. So that is Colt Express. And that is it. Thank you for watching the second part of our top 100 for this year. Well, our top 100 of all time, but that we're talking about this year because that is the year that it is currently. And these are all terrific games, and we'd love to hear about. You don't have to give us a whole top 10. You can just give us like one game that you really like now as well. Because we'd love to hear what you're playing right now.
And if you played any of the ones that we mentioned, feel free to share your thoughts, because comments, likes, subscriptions, all of that really does help us out. So thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we will see you for the next one.